Hello and welcome to the Azure Innovation Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Kennedy. Thank you for joining us in this podcast series where we speak to cloud-first companies, technology leaders, as well as influencers such as venture capitalists on all things AI innovation. At Microsoft, we believe one of the key factors accelerating AI innovation is enabling a thriving ecosystem of services that our customers can build best-in-class applications on. To meet this goal, we work closely with partners building differentiated services in the AI space. Today with us is one of those such partners, RelationalAI. Welcome, Molham.
Hi, Ross. Thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Great to have you. I know I want to dive into what Relational does, but if you don't mind first, I'd love to just sort of step back and understand what are some of the challenges that data scientists and AI developers face while they're processing data for their AI models.
Many challenges. Data is messy, data is not clean, data lives in different places, data is devoid of meaning and semantics. And then, of course, building models requires you to have domain knowledge to try to understand is this a model for fraud? And if it's a model for fraud, how do fraudsters work? Or is this a model for, predicting future demand and so on? So lots and lots of challenges that people, resolve or try to resolve in a variety of ways. And ultimately, they want to encapsulate it into some application that a business person who doesn't understand all this technical detail can use to make intelligent decisions in their company.
I love that framing that data is messy. Very, very true. And data gets messier as we grow in AI and we grow on our infrastructure footprint as we make new investments and adopt new technologies. What are Relational's knowledge graphs and how do we help address these challenges? And maybe you can even step back and help the audience understand what is a graph to begin with.
Yeah, so ultimately the problem that we're trying to solve is to make it as easy as possible to introduce intelligence and AI into decision making and to help build intelligent applications. I don't know if you've seen it, Ross, but Charles Lamana from Microsoft gave a very nice talk about a year and a half ago about how the future of applications is intelligent applications. Okay, so we love that vision, and I've sort of come to similar conclusions over the last 30 years of my working in industries where we were trying to build the early versions of intelligent applications, things that applications for fraud detection, applications for supply chain management, applications for wireless network optimization, merchandising, and so on. So really what we want to do is make that as easy as possible. And without us, and without some of our technology partners like Microsoft and Azure, it's a pretty tough thing to do. You have to combine data from a lot of different databases with these databases supporting many different types of workloads. You have transactional workloads, you have analytical workloads, you have planning workloads, you have prescriptive analytics, you have predictive analytics. Like the end business person who's trying to run a supply chain doesn't really think in terms of these things. They're just, they're trying to figure out how to get the right product at the right place at the right time for the right price. And we, in the background, have to make it easy to assemble these sort of capabilities so that they can make that decision well and effectively and at scale and so on. So a knowledge graph is an abstraction that sits above the various data assets that a company has that reduces the complexity of the various data silos by distilling the essence of a business to a few dozen concepts that matter. Like in a business, what matters? Your customers matter, your products matter, your employees matter, your suppliers matter. And what we've learned over the years is no matter how complex the business is, and you can look at the Fortune 10 or Fortune 100, at their core, there are a few dozen, maybe if you really stretch, a couple hundred core concepts that you can model explicitly as nodes in a knowledge graph, and then model the relationships between those concepts. So Ross shopped in my Atlanta store on this day and bought an iPhone. Okay, that sort of represents a connection between Ross and the Atlanta store and a date and a product that I sell. And that becomes an edge or hyper edge in a knowledge graph that we track and so on. So knowledge graphs are sort of sit above all the data assets. It creates there's foundation for what some people call a semantic layer They bring meaning to data. They bring semantics to data, and make it easy to manage. Easier, I shouldn't say. It's never easy. Easier to manage. Complex data sets with millions and sometimes tens of millions of columns of information.
Appreciate that. Yeah. So as you said, it's an abstraction. It almost be able to surface and give context to this really powerful data, putting it in the hands of the people who help make the decision, sort of making sense of an increasingly complex and diverse set of data points.
That's right. That's right.
I love that. So what is the technology built on?
So in order to do that, and people have sort of been bashing their heads against this problem for some time, and it's sort of, as you know, technology comes in waves. So in the 70s and 80s, we used to use navigational databases for transaction applications or bookkeeping, and then the relational model emerged, and replaced codicil and the mainframe and all that kind of stuff. In the 90s, we had the same dynamic. Analytics, or OLAP, was done in multidimensional arrays, what some people will call tensors today, and the relational model sort of emerged, and innovations in the relational model emerged, and now no one does OLAP in anything but relational technology. 10 years ago, big data was the new workload, and supposedly the relational model was dead. It wasn't going to work for this, and Hadoop was going to be the future of everything. And of course, we learned that that's not the case. We had to innovate again in the relational model, and companies and technologies like Snowflake and Google's BigQuery, and of course Microsoft with Fabric now, which is I think a very, very promising technology, have demonstrated that you can actually do big data, leveraging the cloud, leveraging new architectures in a relational paradigm. And so if you think of the relational paradigm as the paradigm of data, okay, we think that, if semantics are going to come to data, the semantics or the meaning need to be expressed via relationships or relations. And so when people talk about knowledge graphs or graphs in general, they talk about like entities or nodes in the graph. They talk about relationships between them. I am talking to you. That's kind of a link between us right now. And so historically, people have sort of represented these relationships with pointers or with arrays. And these things are not like in the paradigm of data. And so our innovation, our contribution is that we can make it so that you model the semantics and the relationships relationally, very naturally. And that sort of eliminates all sorts of friction between the data-centric architectures and the what historically has been sort of technologies that you use for expressing business logic or semantics. So fundamentally, that's why we're called RelationalAI. That's why we talk about relational knowledge graphs. Like for the first time, it's possible to represent semantics, very rich semantics in a relational context, in a way that makes it much easier for people to adopt this technology than if they had to, switch paradigms.
I appreciate that. It's interesting. You had mentioned a handful of other hyperscalers and how critical this path of technology is to being able to make sense of the data. We're very excited to have you in the Microsoft, partner ecosystem. But I wonder what made you choose Microsoft. What was it about our build and our partner motions that were compelling?
Oh, a lot of reasons. Obviously, for any company at any stage, but particularly in the early stage, paying attention to what the customers want was very important for us. And our initial customers, and some of them are on our website, quoted on our website, AT&T and EY or Ernst & Young, they were big fans and big users of Azure. And so it was very easy to embrace their choice. Of course, there are other reasons. So some technical reasons, some strategic reasons, and of course, reasons just relate to the fact that in our company we have an investor and a board director and a supporter, someone who I'm a big fan of, who's used to be at Microsoft. His name is Bob Muglia, and he was in the early days, involved in the early days of Azure, and of course before that was SQL Server and so on. And so through him, we have connections to Microsoft through our investors like Madrona and Soma at Madrona, again, strong connections to Microsoft. So we just got a lot of support from our customers, from our investors, and from Microsoft to make it easy for us to adopt Azure.
Oh, I appreciate that. Relational has experienced a certain amount of success. I wonder what would be your guidance and advice to other startups that are looking to build AI powered applications to solve their challenges.
Yeah, it's very challenging. I mean, so a startup goes through various phases. You have sort of the initial, big idea, and then you put a few people together, and you get sort of the initial team, and then you might get a little bit of funding to get you going. Each of these things represent a milestone. At some point, you get an early customer. That's another milestone, and then of course you achieve product milestones. That you start delivering the product and so on. But the most important thing, and I've been fortunate to have been part of several companies, a couple have gone public and two that had nice private exits. The most important thing is getting the go-to-market motion right and finding that elusive product market fit. Okay. And so that means a lot of engagement with prospective customers and a lot of thick skin to handle all the no's. And then the ability to kind of reflect on, hey, where is it that I'm not connecting with my audience because I'm excited about this idea and they're staring at me like I'm speaking in a different language. And so how do you iterate on that and simplify the message so that it's clear and you get an immediate enthusiastic reaction? So, we went from, 100 slide deck where we bored people to tears. And now like in 2 or 3 slides, I don't even need the slides. I can just tell, prospective customer who's in the data space, who's been migrating to data clouds of various flavors. I can tell them our value prop and they get it and they get excited about it. We get reactions like, wow, or I love it, or this is amazing, which is hard to do in an enterprise context. And usually it's like enterprise software is boring and people are folded in arms and like, get on with it. I have other things to do. But when they understand what problem we're solving and how we solve it, our customers get very excited by it. So my advice is iterate until you find that kind of motion.
Yeah, that continuous feedback loop, making sure we're listening to the customers to make sure that idea that we think is great in our head, they also agree and think is great. I wonder what is next for Relational.
So we launched last June in private preview on Snowflake, and our customers again will use Snowflake on Azure and other cloud providers. And we launched as a co-processor to Snowflake to sort of give it superpowers, make it support workloads that doesn't normally support, like graph analytics, like rule-based reasoning, like prescriptive analytics, like predictive analytics, and that has been tremendous for us, and we've been doing a lot with Snowflake and Azure on that. This summer, this June, we will go from private preview to public preview, and shortly thereafter, general availability. One of the things I'm most excited about doing next is to replicate that model for Fabric. I think Microsoft has really done an amazing job with that, and it serves a very different audience in some ways than Snowflake does. It sort of leverages Microsoft leadership in Power BI and spreadsheets, and serves an audience in a very important audience for a very important set of use cases. People want to bring intelligence into their BI and into their spreadsheets. And I think it's represents an amazing next opportunity for us. And so we want to be a co-processor to Fabric in the same way that we're a co-processor to Snowflake. And Fabric was designed from the get-go for that, because it's supportive of open data formats and things like that. So, I'm looking forward to moving in that direction.
Well, that's great. So moving from private preview is going to be a big step. And then obviously having a line of sight on what the future with Fabric will look like is going to be an important piece.
Yeah.
Molham, I appreciate this time very much. I've learned quite a bit, and I'm thankful. It's really good to hear about relational AI and the impact that you're making, and looking forward to seeing what's next on the agenda for all of you. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to learn more about Azure services that will help you build your next apps, please check out our website. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.